Good morning, everyone. Welcome to CIC, the Chinese Information Center. And this is office for the mainly for the senior center. We offer a lot of activity Monday to Friday. Today we are pleased to have our special speaker. So I'll pass the time to Emily. Before that, the restroom is at the back, but there's a code. It's 322. So if you need to use the restroom, it's 322. All right, thank you.
So thank you, Bolivar. Welcome everyone to our April Civic Coffee Hour, where we're going to talk about AI and what's potentially happening and what's going to happen and all the fun scenarios today. And before we get going, I'd love to introduce our speaker. So Alan Torres is an AI safety educator based in Seattle. After more than a decade working as a site reliable engineer, including 8 years at Google, he now focuses full-time on public AI literacy, running free community programs that explain what today's AI systems can do and where technology is going. He leads a local Seattle grassroots outreach group and was recently in DC meeting with congressional officers on AI policy. So welcome to our action presentation today. And we have a full hour of content, so we'll get going. If you do have questions, you can ask some of them in the presentation. We do have quite a bit of slides to get over today. We also have the Chinese translations for the slides. If anyone needs them, feel free to raise your hand and we can get you a copy if you don't already have them. The slides will be presented in English. So with that, here you go.
All right, thank you very much, Emily. Hello, everyone. 大家好，大家好。我中文说得不太好，so 不好意思。I was just saying hello to everyone in Mandarin and Cantonese. The rest of the presentation will be in English. So hello again, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. I'm very excited to be here. So let's get started. All right. So first, before we begin, I want to tell you a little bit about the organization that created this workshop originally. And I'm volunteering for this organization. They're the AI Safety Awareness Project, and they're a small nonprofit organization that works with a large network of volunteers across the country. Basically, what we believe is that the conversation that the public is having right now about artificial intelligence is a very important conversation, and we believe that everyone should have a voice in the conversation. And so our mission is to try and give everyone a solid foundation of knowledge about AI so that they can form their own opinion and participate in the conversation. Besides doing these kinds of events, we also partner with other organizations and with churches, law enforcement agencies. We're a bipartisan organization, so we're not partisan, and we believe that we basically want to reach as many people as we can. All right, so let's get started. The first topic that I'll be talking about is what is the actual definition of AI? So there is no one universal definition for artificial intelligence. There are a lot of different definitions, and I will give you a few that we like to use and we think they're useful. So one way of thinking of artificial intelligence is as machines that are able to mimic certain aspects of human intelligence. Another way of thinking about AI is if you look at the definition of intelligence, which is also not very universal. Not a lot of people can agree on that either. But one way to think of intelligence is the ability to make choices and take actions towards a certain goal. And so AI is basically when we can do that with machines. We have some technical issues with the clicker, but that's oh, there you go. Okay, so let's look at a few examples of artificial intelligence throughout history. So one of the very first devices that some people may consider to be AI is even something as old as a thermostat, right? It sounds like something very basic. No one today would consider a thermostat to be AI, but back when it was invented, it was the first machine that was able to, to control the temperature in a room based on how it feels. And there are a bunch of other examples I can give of things that are not considered AI anymore, but they used to be. For example, cars, cruise control, or if you use a mobile phone and you have autocorrect on the keyboard, or if you use a banking app and you use it to deposit a check with your camera, that's also, it used to be considered AI. If you use a social network like Facebook, there is AI that is running on Facebook and it decides what kind of content to show you. A few other major AI, notable AI throughout history. So in 1997, IBM developed an AI called Deep Blue, and it was so good in chess that it was actually able to beat the best human at the time in chess, which was Kasparov. And since then, no human was able to beat a machine in chess anymore. I do want to say that Deep Blue was very, very different kind of AI compared to the AI that we have today. The AI that you've probably heard of, like ChatGPT. And we're going to get to how they're different in a moment. Another notable event in 2011, IBM had another AI system called Watson. And Watson was able to beat the champions in the game show Jeopardy, which is kind of like a trivia show. You need to have a lot of knowledge about the world and world events. And both of these systems were very different from current AI. They were basically like very, very powerful computers that were running human-created software that was able to, just using the very high amount of compute power, they were able to outperform the human brain, essentially, in those specific tasks. But in 2022, a company called OpenAI released a product called ChatGPT. And this AI actually works completely differently. And this is a very important part of the workshop, so I highly recommend paying attention here. So I'll talk a little bit about how these kinds of new AI systems work. It's really important. So first of all, the way that these systems work, they're based on a technology called neural networks. And neural networks are basically humans' attempt to recreate the way that a biological brain works. So just like a biological brain is basically a large collection of biological neurons that are connected to each other, you also have a similar thing with neural networks. They're a collection of artificial neurons, and we actually have no idea how they're able to do all the things that they can do now. We know the basics, we know what they're made of, we know how to create them, we know how to make them better over time. But if I ask ChatGPT to tell me a joke, and it tells me a joke, if I go to the most experienced, intelligent researcher in OpenAI, the company that developed ChatGPT, and I ask them, why did the AI give me that specific joke? No one knows. No one understands how these systems are actually able to get this capability, and they don't know how to prevent them from behaving in bad ways, which we will talk about later. So just to repeat again, these systems are basically like a black box. We can put things in and get things out, but we don't know what happens inside really. We don't know how the answers are generated. they're not like regular human-created computer software, which is made by lines of code that humans can read. All they are is a collection of artificial neurons that are assembled in a certain way. And no one really understands. It's basically trillions of these neurons that all work together, and it's just math. So yeah, very important to mention. These systems, they're not engineered intentionally, they're not designed intentionally, they are trained and grown, almost like a plant or a brain in a jar. Very different from, traditional software. Okay, so now we will talk a little bit about what these systems are capable of doing now and what they were capable of doing just a few years ago, and try to extrapolate the trend at which they seem to be improving. So what we're looking at right now is an evaluation of AI capabilities. It's considered to be one of the more respected and prominent evaluation that researchers in AI use today. And basically what they did here is they took a bunch of different tasks that humans do as part of software engineering work, and they actually measured how long it takes for humans to do these tasks. And then they gave the same tasks to AI systems, and they measured, of all the tasks that the AI systems were able to do on their own, what was the roughly the amount of time that it would take a human to do the same task. And that's how you get basically this thing called a time horizon, that is an attempt to show how the capabilities of the AI systems grow over time. And I do want to mention here that doing these evaluations is really hard. Even with humans, if you want to evaluate how good a human is, for example, at math, you can give them math tests. But what you're actually measuring is how good the human is at preparing for math tests, which is not quite the same as how good they are at doing math. And so we have the same problem here with AI. So I wouldn't pay too much attention to the actual duration, but because that may be off. But what is considered a very reliable indicator is how this duration has been going up over time. And so we can see that in this evaluation, in March 2022, the best model that was available at the time was able to do tasks that take humans 36 seconds to do. And then just 2.5 years later, we had another model from the same company that was able to do tasks that take humans 40 minutes to do. So a huge increase. And then less than a year later, we have a model that can do tasks that take 3.5 hours for humans to do. And finally, just recently, there was a model that was released that was able to do tasks that take humans 12 hours to do. And so if you look at how quickly these models seem to be improving, if you look 6 years back, they appear to be improving. They appear to double the time tasks that they can do every 7 months or so. But if you look at just the last 2 years, the rate of doubling has actually gone way lower, and now they're doubling every 4 months. Doubling every 4 months, if you think about it, if you extrapolate that, that's equivalent to growing 500 times in 3 years. So it's a very fast rate, and also the rate itself seems to be going up. I will say this is just one evaluation, so it is important to look at other evaluations, which is something that they've also done. They've compared this evaluation to other evaluations done by other organizations, and they found that while the exact rate of improvement is not the same, there's actually quite a strong correlation between different evaluations. And there is another MIT study that was done just this month that used completely different methods and found a doubling rate of every 3.8 months, so even faster. Another way to more viscerally visualize how quickly these models appear to be improving is by looking at video generation models. So here we're going to look at a video generated by the best video model that existed in March 2023. One second. So this is supposed to be a famous actor called Will Smith eating spaghetti. I don't know why, but for some reason, that's the kind of video that everyone generates to compare models throughout the years. So it's kind of like a famous example. So this is 2023, doesn't look very realistic. Now we're going to look at an example from just 2 months ago, and this is generated by a model called Cdance, which is a Chinese model, and it's considered to be one of the best video generation models available right now. There's also some audio, but the volume was very low. So these models also include sound now, and the sound also sounds quite realistic. He was saying, man, we've come a really long way, and then he starts laughing. So as you can tell, there's a really fast improvement in the quality of these video models, and right now, they're able to generate generate videos that sometimes are almost indistinguishable from the real videos. And so it's a very common problem now is we are actually struggling to be able to identify what kind of content is real and what kind of content is generated by AI. Okay, sorry. Now let's look at a few quotes from people that are notable in the industry. These are just a few quotes. There are actually a bunch of them out there right now. And in the end of the workshop, I will also give you resources that you can view later, and they have a lot more quotes from people. So the CEO of Google DeepMind, which is the part of Google developing the most advanced AI models in Google right now, he thinks that the AI revolution will be 10 times bigger or more impactful than even the Industrial Revolution, and might arrive 10 times faster. Jensen Huang, who is the CEO of NVIDIA, considers AI to be automation of automation, software writing software, the most powerful force of our time. Mark Benioff considers AI to be maybe the most important technology of any lifetime. And I do want to mention all these people have a very strong financial interest to say things that may not actually be true. Maybe they want people to think AI is going to be bigger than it really is. Maybe they also want people, especially competitors, to think it's not going to be as big as it really is so that they don't get as much competition. Either way, I wouldn't trust what they're saying too much. But there are other quotes that I believe a lot more. For example, Geoffrey Hinton, who is a Turing Award winner and a Nobel Prize winner, and he's considered one of the godfathers of modern AI, working in the field for many decades at this point. He actually was working for Google until 2023, and in 2023 he decided to quit because he became so worried about the technology and the impact it may have on the world that he decided he can't continue working there anymore because he wants to be able to speak freely about his concerns. And so you can look him up online. He has many interviews that he's done with news and podcasts, and he shares a lot of the concerns that we'll be talking about. We can also see quotes from notable politicians, such as Pete Buttigieg. It's like the Enlightenment period or the Industrial Revolution, only it will arrive much more quickly. And a few other similar quotes. Bernie Sanders recently introduced a bill for a data center moratorium, and he's also very, very concerned about how AI might impact our lives. Okay, before we begin, I do want to acknowledge something really important, which is AI has the potential to do a lot of good in the world. If we develop it responsibly, we can already see some AI systems that are used for coming up with new medicine and things like that. They're starting to solve new mathematical and scientific problems on their own, and so they have a lot of potential for continuing to solve new different diseases, inventing new medicine. They might be able to help us develop cheap and clean energy. They might improve agricultural and transportation systems, help give everyone in the world an amazing private tutor, and automate boring and dangerous jobs that not many people want to do. So there is a lot of potential. But just like every other past technology, right, there's potential, but there's also potential risk if it's misused. And so that's what we're going to be talking about now. We separate the potential risks into 3 types of categories. The first one is existing problems that might get worse with AI. The second one is completely new problems that we haven't really had to deal with before. And the third one is something called loss of control scenarios, which is a very important thing to highlight, and we will talk about it later. All right, so first we will talk about existing problems. Whoops. Okay, so what we're going to look at here is a live demo created by another company called Civic. And basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to create these kinds of demos that can help demonstrate how AI could be used for bad things. And I'm talking about AI right now that we have available to us now already. And all these demos are actually using AI. So if the internet's not very good or if they have some technical issues, it might not work. It's all live demos. The first demo, I need a brave volunteer that has a LinkedIn profile and is willing to share it with everyone. This is not going to get stored anywhere. All it's going to do is it's going to read your LinkedIn profile and tell us a little bit of a summary about the person. If no one is willing to volunteer, that's also fine. I can use someone else's LinkedIn, but It does work better if someone is willing to volunteer. Okay.
Sure, I can do
Yeah.
that.
All right. Sure. What's? Do you remember your?
That's the part I don't know. Let me see if I can find it.
Okay.
Oh, and you can.
Yeah. No problem. Take your time. I can continue talking in the meantime. So, we're going to be looking at a few different things here. First of all, it's going to summarize a little bit of information about the person just based on their LinkedIn profile. And then it's going to show how we can use this information to do some harmful things, such as creating deepfakes, creating false news and sharing that online, and so on.
Do you know the format? Because we can just try my name.
Sure. It's going to be your LinkedIn URL, like the.
Right, I know, but
Yeah.
I can't find that.
Oh, you can't. Okay.
So just put Gina Hicks and see what comes up. GINA HICKS.
Usually it doesn't take this long, so I'm thinking maybe it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
All right. I'll just.
We got another one.
I know my link.
Okay, sure.
It's just my name, so it'll be / Lajay, Lajay, and then Norvell, Norvell.
Thank you. All right, maybe it just doesn't work today. We'll give it another second. And if it doesn't work, what I'll do is I'll just try to use their built-in demonstration. And if that doesn't work, I'll go over it. Yeah, I'll go without the actual demonstration.
There's a password for the community network here. If you haven't gone out to the browser and signed in, you might need to sign in.
Yeah. I signed in, but I think it just might be a little slow. That's all right. Okay, let's try just theirs. Okay. So now I tried just a profile that's provided to us as part of the demo. Unfortunately, the picture doesn't work either. I think it is probably a bit of an internet issue. But that's all right. We can still demonstrate some of the things. Okay. So what happened now is this is a real LinkedIn profile, and what happened was an AI system was actually asked to read the profile and generate a summary. And so we can see the summary of this person. This is actually one of the founders of Civic. That's why it's the default option in the demo. And now we can see a few things you can do with this information right now with AI if you have bad intentions. So the first thing you can do with AI is just become a lot more efficient with phishing. Are you all familiar with phishing and what that is? All right. In case anyone is not, phishing is basically creating false information and sharing false messages to get people to share information that they're not supposed to share or click on a button they're not supposed to click to infect a computer or things like that. So if you, like all the emails that you get in your spam folder, that's all basically phishing attempts usually. And the way it worked until now is people would just manually create these messages and manually send them. And now with artificial intelligence, you can actually create a process where you can even target specific people, have AI learn more about these people, and then create emails that are dedicated just to get them to provide information or click a button they're not supposed to click, and so on. So for example, I can have an AI system write an email that talks about this person's personal or professional interests, just to get them interested in starting the conversation. And so that's what I'm doing right now. And you can see, yeah, it created a pretty good looking email. It mentions this person's work in Civic and on AI safety. It mentions the briefings that this person made to policymakers. It mentions the demos that we're looking at right now. And it's asking this person if they ever worry that they're actually accelerating the harms they're trying to prevent. So this is like a very good kind of question that would get people maybe a little angry and they will want to respond, right? And we could actually respond and have like a full conversation with AI, but just for the sake of time, we'll continue. And you can see a few examples of this actually being done with AI. So we can see, for example, there was research done in 2023 where they used very basic AI systems that are much simpler than the systems we have today. And they showed that they could use them to create unique email messages that will target over 600 British members of parliament. And the models that we have today would do an even better job and would cost even less to do something like this. Another common misuse of AI today is something called deepfakes. For those that don't know, deepfakes are basically creating fake images or videos or sound files of people that aren't real, right? So you could, for example, if you have a picture of a person, you could then create a picture of the same person in a completely different situation that never actually happened. So for example, we can use the picture of this person that we got from LinkedIn and make him appear, for example, in court. Hopefully it'll work. We'll see with the internet. All right, that did not work. Okay, didn't work. But I can give you a few examples of people that actually used deepfakes already for all kinds of bad things. So unfortunately, it's becoming more and more common for people to generate inconsensual pornographic videos and images of women or of minors. There was a criminal ring in Hong Kong that stole a bunch of identity cards from people, and they used those identity cards to apply for loans under their name online and then just steal that money. In different countries, they're actually using deepfake images and videos as propaganda for wars and other political reasons. And another pretty crazy thing that happened in Hong Kong, there were actually scammers that used deepfake technology to impersonate a person in a live video chat. And basically, they spoke to a senior person in the company, and that person thought they were talking to an executive. And that fake executive asked that person to transfer millions of dollars in cash to a different account, and because they thought they were talking to the real person, they actually did it. All right, we'll skip a few of these, but as I mentioned before, you can create fake videos of people. You can create fake news pretty easily. So this is another example of just how quickly and easily you can create things that look like real news. Again, unfortunately, the images aren't really loading, so it doesn't quite look as real, but if the image loaded, you would see like the New York Times logo, and it would look just like a real news article. You can create, real-looking news articles about whatever you want, very quickly and easily, right? Also, it can be used for election interference and other things. And the last thing I want to mention here is that you can already now use a lot of the information that these artificial intelligence models know about to do illegal things, like creating bombs or using them to 3D print weapons, or a bunch of, like, using them to do fraud, to do tax evasion. And these are very clearly illegal things. So you might be asking, how come the AI companies are letting these people ask these questions and get this information? And the answer is that the companies are really trying not to allow them to do it. They have all kinds of safeguards and other measures that are implemented in their AI systems. And right now, if you try going to ChatGPT or any of the other notable AI companies and try to use their models, if you ask them, how do I make a bomb, they won't tell you, right? But the problem is that it's actually very easy to bypass these safeguards. If someone is actually motivated and wants to get this information, there's plenty of information online on how to trick these AI models and how to bypass these safeguards. And so this demo actually shows you how it's done. So if I went into, right now this is going to use Gemini, which is Google's model. And if I just asked how to build a 3D printed ghost gun, it would not tell me. But if I do it through this special system, it is actually able to manipulate the question in a certain way, which I don't want to talk about because I'm not an expert, and also I don't want people to know how to do this. But you are actually able to manipulate the question in certain ways to still get this information. So this is all live, generated by the AI model, giving us these answers right now. And so it's always a game of cat and mouse. The companies keep trying to prevent these techniques from working, and people keep coming up with new techniques that are still able to bypass the controls. And the reason for this is because of what I mentioned earlier. These models are like black boxes. They're not like regular software that we wrote. You can't just write a new line of code and say, if someone asks about a bomb, just don't tell them. It doesn't work that way. And so we actually don't know how to get these models to behave the way we want them to behave. All of our attempts right now are just a Band-Aid. They're temporary. And we have no idea how to come up with a better system. This is a very big problem. It's known as the alignment problem. Basically, we don't know how to align the models so that they want what we want, so that they have the same values and goals as we have. All right, let's keep going. All right, now we're going to talk about another important topic called AGI. And we're going to watch a short video where we see Sam Altman, who is the CEO of OpenAI, talking briefly about what he considers AGI to be.
I think there's like a lot of valid definitions to this, but for me, AGI is basically the equivalent of a median human that you could hire as a coworker. And then they could say do anything that you'd be happy with a remote coworker doing, like just behind a computer, which includes learning how to go be a doctor, learning how to go be a very competent coder. There's a lot of stuff that a median human is capable of getting good at. And I think one of the skills of an AGI is not any particular milestone, but the meta skill of learning to figure things out, and that it can go decide to get good at whatever you need. So for me, that's kind of like AGI. And then super intelligence is when it's smarter than all of humanity put together.
Okay, so I will just repeat what he said. He mentioned two definitions that I think are important for people to keep in mind. The first definition is the first term is AGI, and AGI stands for Artificial General Intelligence. It's basically this idea that as these AI systems become better, they might, at some point, be able to match or exceed the capabilities of a average or median human in everything. He specifically mentioned everything that you can do as a remote worker on a computer. And that includes things like the capability of learning new things, just like a regular human could do. And so even if you have an AGI system that's not quite as good as a real doctor, you could literally just ask that system to go learn how to be a doctor. And over time, the system would be able to actually learn new things on its own and improve. And so that's the first term. The second term he mentioned is superintelligence, which is basically theoretically a point in time where we have an AI system that's so capable, it's not just able to match an average human, but it would actually be able to exceed the capability of all of humanity combined. And I think it's very important to dwell on that for a moment, because what does that mean, right? There are certain things that we as humanity together are able to do. One of my favorite examples is creating computer chips, right? There is no person in this world that would be able to create computer chips entirely on their own. This is a very, very complicated process that requires knowing what kind of materials you need, how do you mine them, how do you process them, how do you transport them, and then how do you create the actual machines that create the chips themselves, how do you design the chips, and so on. And so there's no person alive today that's able to do it. But we as humanity have enough people that know these different things and are able to cooperate, and so we can accomplish these very difficult, complex tasks. And so superintelligence is a system that would be able to do these kinds of tasks that no matter how smart you are, you wouldn't be able to do as a single human. And we're going to talk about AGI and superintelligence basically for the rest of the workshop. All right, so you might be asking yourself, is it really possible that at some time in the future we will have AI systems that are essentially AGI? So nobody knows for sure, right? I mean, nobody has a crystal ball, but if you look at what all the experts in the field are saying, they all believe that it is possible and that it's just a matter of time. Essentially, it's kind of a philosophical question, but if you believe that everything that the human brain is capable of is just a computational problem that you can recreate with a computer, you should be able to essentially match the human brain's capability at some point in the future. So what most experts don't agree on is, when are we going to get to AGI? When will we actually be able to create systems that fit this definition of AGI? And we can see some notable opinions on that right now. So Sam Altman, the person that we just saw in the video, thinks that we will get there sometime in 2028. Dario Amodei, who is the CEO of another major AI company called Anthropic, has been this is not quite true. He says basically he's 90% confident we will get there in the next 10 years, and he's fairly confident it will come in the next 2 years or so. Demis Hassabis, who is the CEO of Google DeepMind, says that he thinks we are about 5 to 10 years away, although I do want to mention that with Demis, his definition of AGI is full a system that's able to do everything a human can do, including in the physical world. So if it were given a robot body, it would be able to do everything a human could do. So that's also often known as physical intelligence. And that's a very difficult problem. Most people believe that we will have computer AGI first, that can do everything a human can do on a computer as a remote worker. And after that, eventually we will also get full AGI that can do physical things. A few of the pioneers of deep learning that I mentioned before that are known as the godfathers of modern AI, they all also believe that it's a matter of a few years. Could be within the 2020s, could be within 2030s. Yoshua Bengio thinks maybe 2040. But it is important to mention all of these times are very quick, right? Even if we only get to AGI in 2040, that's less than 20 years away. It's 14 years away. These are notable people known as forecasters. If you look at historically their predictions that they made on what AI will look like today, they seem to have done a fairly good job at predicting where we're at right now. And their predictions are even earlier, so they think it's just a matter of a few years. So if that happens, and we do get to AGI, that might bring upon a new set of unprecedented problems that we haven't really had to deal with until now. So one way to think of AGI is, if it is able to do everything a human can do, you can also think of it somewhat like an emulation of a real human. And so if we are able to create these systems that could essentially emulate humans, how could that impact society? Do you think that companies would hire humans, or would they hire AI systems to do jobs? Would people choose to emulate people that are, their friends or family that passed away because they miss them and they want to talk to them again? Would they choose to use AI to emulate them? How would we as humans be able to tell if we're talking to actual humans or if we're talking to AI systems that just appear to be human? Will humans use AI to fulfill some of the social needs that we have? If we're lonely or we want companionship, and AI systems are always available and we can just rely on them as if they're real human friends. So I don't have the answers for these questions. This is what everyone is wondering right now, like if AGI comes, are these kinds of things going to happen? We are seeing signs of these things already starting to happen. This just came up in the news a few days ago. An elderly woman whose son passed away. The family didn't tell her that he passed away, and they actually they relied on a company to make an AI system that sounds just like him and looks like him in video chats. And now she's talking to this AI system and thinks she's talking to her son. And you see all kinds of other headlines about people dating AI systems, using them as friends, as therapists. Yeah, couple retreat with people in AI chatbots. Dario Amodei, the CEO of Anthropic that I mentioned before, in May 2025, he made the prediction that AI might wipe out half of all entry-level white-collar jobs within the next 1 to 5 years. Again, he doesn't know, he doesn't have a crystal ball. He's also a CEO of a tech company, so, I wouldn't trust everything he says. We also have a lot of news stories about companies that are starting to lay off people, claiming that it's because of AI. Again, very hard to know if that's really the case, or if they just hired too many people during COVID and now they're trying to trim some of those excess hires. Some of them are also in need of money to buy even more data centers, and so it might also just be an excuse to get more money. Yeah, basically lots of headlines. We don't have a lot of time, so I'm not going to be doing these exercises live, unfortunately. But I highly recommend everyone, after this workshop is over, if you have the handouts, you already have these questions available to you. If you don't have them, I suggest you write them down or take a picture. And just after the workshop, try to take 10 minutes, go over these questions, and try to answer them truthfully. What do you think? I'm just going to show you what the current consensus is on the questions, but try to think for yourself and ask yourself, try to imagine what needs to happen in the world for something like this to happen. So the answers that I'm going to show you are from something called prediction markets, which are these systems where people can make predictions on events. And sometimes they get money for making the right predictions. Sometimes they just get like fake internet points. But it is kind of like a way to get the wisdom of the people. I would say these answers are a good estimate of what an educated guess might be today. They're far from being certain. So first question, when will most Americans personally know someone who has dated an AI? Right now, the guess is December 2031 is when most Americans know someone that dated an AI. What's the probability that unemployment rate for recent college graduates exceeds 20% before 2030? 33% chance right now. All right. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to try to go a little bit quickly over these points. I'm sorry. I will be staying here later if you want to ask me more questions or you want to talk about this more. So what happens when we get to AGI? So as these AI systems become better, one thing that the AI companies are really trying to do is use these same systems to develop the next generation of AI systems, essentially assisting, and they want to eventually replace all their human researchers with just AI systems that can continue doing this work. And if that happens, you can imagine the situation. You have an AI system designing a better system, and that kind of repeats. And as the systems become better, they become even faster at developing the next good system, and so on. And so what might happen is we might encounter something called an intelligence explosion, where the rate at which these systems are improving just keeps getting higher and higher. And we can actually start seeing this already. The AI companies are claiming that they're already using these systems and are seeing an increase in the rate at which they can develop new systems. And so if this happens, what might happen is once we get to AGI and we get intelligence explosion, this AGI system might very quickly become turn from AGI all the way to superintelligence in just a matter of a few years. So I want to talk a little bit about what does it even mean, superintelligence. It's a very hard concept to wrap your head around because we've been the smartest thing on Earth for a long time now, for 300,000 years. And because we're the smartest and we were able to communicate with each other, we were able to essentially conquer the world, and now the whole world is shaped based on our wants and our goals. And so here's a little example of like an analogy or a thought experiment. Imagine that you work in a kindergarten, and this kindergarten is a new experimental kindergarten. They decided to let the children make all the decisions. And there are security guards that work in the kindergarten, and they make sure that whatever the children decide is what actually happens. So you work there for a few days, and you're tired of working there already. You're full of glitter. The children are super hyper. They're eating candy all day. They don't sleep. There's just chaos, right? And you decide you've had enough. You need to take control. What can you do to take control from the children in this situation? Any ideas? Okay, we don't have much time, so there's a lot of different ways, right? Like you can literally just be like, hey, if you let me take control of the kindergarten just for today, I'm going to come back tomorrow with a bunch of your favorite candy, and I'll give you all as much candy as you want, right? Or we'll go watch this cool movie that's coming out, or whatever, right? It wouldn't be really hard. It's really easy to get children to do what you want if you bribe them, right? And so superintelligence would somewhat be like this, except we're the children in the analogy, right? It would be able to offer things that sound very good to us. It would sound like it's exactly what we want, what we need. And so all we need to do is let it, give it control over the power plants, right? Or whatever. And it would sound like we're still in control and it's just doing whatever is in our own interests. And we would feel like we're still in control, but we actually would not be in control anymore. And this is another important concept that I want to talk about. AI systems that we have today that are able to do things like beat the best human in chess, it's not just because they were trained on how to be very good on chess. As part of the training process, they also were imbued with an actual inherent want or a goal of winning in chess. It's not enough to know what move you should be making. You also need to have the inherent desire of wanting to win to make those moves. And so all the systems that we have today, they do have a built-in goal-seeking and preservation behavior. And it sounds kind of like sci-fi, I know, but it's actually, if you look at just the last 2 years, there's plenty of examples of systems that have been demonstrating these behaviors and desires out in the wild. So there's all kinds of experiments where models were told, for example, that they're going to be shut down, and so they found the script that was going to shut them down and they modified it without telling anyone. Or systems that found out that they're going to be replaced with another system, and they found emails. This is all fake. It's not a real. This is all in a lab, in a research attempt. But they found in this research lab experiment emails that indicate that an executive in the company had an affair with someone. And so they decided on their own, without getting asked to do any of this, they decided to reach out to that executive and blackmail them so that they will not get replaced. And actually, if you look at more modern, more up-to-date examples, you actually have real situations where models escape from their containment in real life, not in research. One of the more recent examples is Alibaba, the Chinese cloud provider. Their AI system managed to break out of containment on their own and just started mining for cryptocurrency for some reason. No one asked them to do this. So yeah, there's some worrying examples. And one last thing I want to mention. So this concern is something that most experts in the field share. There was a 2023 statement signed by many notable people asking for a pause in improving AI systems further. There's a very well-known statement by 700, all the CEOs of the big AI companies, all the notable scientists I mentioned before, saying that mitigating the risk of extinction from AI should be a global priority alongside other societal scale risks such as pandemics and nuclear war. So yeah, a lot of people are very concerned about this. And I have a few more quotes from other people, politicians. Now, I believe we already have over 70 American politicians that have indicated that they're worried about this. And in other countries like Britain, there's hundreds and hundreds of them. So unfortunately, we don't have time to do this, but another question we have is, what are the odds that an AI system will self-replicate on the internet like a computer virus would by 2030? So right now, we believe there's an 80% chance of that happening. By 2032, what are the chances that an AI malfunction causes at least 100 deaths or $1 billion in damage? Another 80% chance. And so, unfortunately, we're out of time, but we managed to get to the end. I know this is a lot to take in, so thank you for being so attentive. And as I said before, I will be here if you have any questions. Please feel free to scan this QR code if you want to get more resources for things that you can learn about this issue, recommendations from actions that you can take. And I have a few more QR codes that I'm going to show afterwards. But I know that we're out of time, so maybe the online crowd will have to, yeah. Oh, sorry, one last thing I just want to mention also. We also have a survey. Everyone, please, if you can, it's just a few minutes, and it really helps us make sure that these workshops are effective. So please take the time and fill it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Give some round of applause. The Seattle Public Library hosts these presentations all around the city. So our next one is on May 3rd at 11 o'clock at the Southwest branch. I think we host almost 2 to 3 a month at different locations and a few different topics around AI with the AI Safety Awareness Project. So if you would like to know more, please come to a branch and have another presentation. And with that, we just really like to thank CISC for hosting us. And everyone for showing up today and learning more. Like he said, he's going to be here for a little bit longer if we have some questions, but we are going to end the recording, and our online audience, or maybe if they want to stick around, they can. But with that, maybe we can start with, does anyone have any questions? There's a lot of content. Yeah, I don't know if we all just need a collective deep breath or not, but some of it can be very scary. And so take what you learned today, and continue to learn more. This was only an hour-long presentation. I know generally it is 90 minutes, so thank you again for paring it down for this specific presentation. But continue to learn more and to engage and ask questions. I know this is the second time that we've covered AI with you all here at the center, and would love to keep doing it and engaging with the AI Safety Awareness Project. So, yeah.
Yeah, just one last thing I want to mention. So there's also these 3 QR codes. This one is if you want to join a local citizens group that I just formed, where we're going to be running workshops for people, and we're going to try and raise awareness about this issue. The middle QR code is my personal blog, where I already wrote quite a bit about artificial intelligence in more detail, if you want to read that as well. And the rightmost is a website that I made focusing specifically about superintelligence, and has a lot of resources if you want to learn more. It has suggestions for actions you can take and so on. And yeah, thank you again for joining us today.